This is Jay Teaches Reading for All, Lesson 84. In this lesson, we're going to have the third sound of ed endings, sounding like id, that's how I pronounce it, in patted. You may pronounce it more like ed in patted, or you may pronounce it slightly different. However you pronounce it, teachers, that's the way you teach it. For those teachers who review from the sound out sheet the sounds of combinations of letters, here we go on that. So let's see. Try to get it all in focus here. I think I've got it. Click on pause. Get a snapshot. A little shaky there at the end, but hopefully you got a decent snapshot. Okay, we're going to review the first sound of the ed ending, which was kind of a shocker because that sound was a T sound, t, as in patted. Okay, so students, say these words before I do. Helped, sipped, tipped, tripped, picked, tricked, mopped, stopped, popped, flipped, slipped, linked, blinked. Teachers, if you'd like, you can press pause and have the students read these to you. Now the true and false sentences that went with those ed endings. Right here, have the students read these to you, teachers. Press pause. The second sound of the ed ending is the sound D, as if the E was silent. Example given on the sound out sheet is rubbed. All right, students, say these words before I do. Filled, stilled, rubbed, there it is, stubbed, stirred, blurred, gained, stained, mind, cared, scared, blared, snared, grilled, thrilled, loaned. This word mind, spelled with an ed ending, means that you're going, or people are digging into the ground in order to find some type of valuable mineral like silver, gold, aluminum ore, iron ore, something like that. But mind with the E not there is the mind, like your brain, your mind. They're both pronounced just the same, but spelled differently. Okay, teachers, have students read these to you. Press pause. Now, teachers, have the students read the sentences to you. Press pause again. All right, and now, lesson 84, which was highly publicized, but which I don't have on the board yet. So let's get our lesson of the day in front of us. Here we go. Lesson 84, the ED makes the id or the ed sound in words like padded. So we've got added, padded, faded, braided, patted, chatted, parted, charted, fitted, knitted, netted, sweated, plotted, clotted, rooted, booted. Teachers, there are some words here that students may need some explanation on, like faded. You give an example of like faded jeans and explain to them what that is. Braided. Most girls would probably know that one. Let's see, charted. This means that you make plans, you book and you pay for something. You charted a fishing boat. You've paid for it for a trip that you're going to have, a fishing trip that you're going to have. Or it might mean that you have made a chart. And this would, take some more explanation for some students. Knitted, might have to give a little more detailed explanation for that. Hopefully there'll be something online that would help on that one. Netted means to catch something in a net. Plotted means to plan. Usually it's kind of an evil plan. That's the connotation that goes with that planning. It's kind of an evil plan. Clotted means to cling together, bunch up, like your blood clotted after you got cut. It kind of bunched together and dried. Rooted. This is could be having to do with a plant, that the roots get down into the ground and start holding the plant steady, firmly in the ground, rooted. Booted, somebody gets the boots on and they're booted, or it might mean kicking somebody in the rear end with a shoe or a boot, I guess, and they would be booted. So, and there's some other ones that students may have questions about. All right, I'm going to have you teachers have the students read these to you and give them a spelling test. I've got about 6 words underlined: added, faded, parted, knitted, clotted, netted. So those are my choices. And when you're done with that, have the students read these sentences once silently, giving you a true false answer, and then out loud giving you a final true and false answer. Press pause and do all these things. All right, my answers on the true and false. Sandy chatted with a beetle, then braided its hair. Too silly to be true. Number 2, Kathy knitted gloves and fitted them on her sister's hands. Well, if the student understands what knitting is, then they would know this is possible. gloves can be knitted. And Kathy is a very nice sister to do that. Number 3, Quincy sweated in the jungle, but netted 6 birds. This is an unusual sentence, as many of them are. If you're in the jungle, it's hot, and you can sweat. So that part is a true. Netted 6 birds, which means he caught them in nets. That could be true. Some students may say, "Oh, that's impossible. You can't get that many birds at one time." I would put a true for it, but I can see where some students might think it's false. Number 4, after a long time, the sun faded Rick's blue jeans. So if you have explained to the student what faded means, jeans sometimes are sold in the store faded. So they're not bright colors, they're duller. And if a student understands that, the student will know that this could be true. Now, before we get to an introduction of the next lesson, 85, I'm going to quiz students on this sound out sheet and see how they do. ED can sound like id or ed in padded, can sound like d in rubbed, can sound like t in tapped. LE at the end of a word can sound like O in apple. ALL can sound like all in ball. AW can sound like aw in saw. AU can sound like aw in auto. And by the way, I left out the AL, like in salt, usually it has a T after it. So that can also sound like all. And OY can sound like oi in boy. OI can sound like oi in coins. ER can sound like in hammer. IR can sound like in bird. UR can sound like in church. Bossy AR can sound like R in star, or it can sound like or in corn. EA usually sounds like E, but it can sound 2 different ways. It can sound like A in pear or in bread. OO usually sounds like oo in moon, but it can sound like in book. OU, ow in cloud. OW, ow in owl. AI, A in rain. AY, A in pray. EE, E in bee. EA usually sounds like E in seal. Y at the end of a longer word? E in baby. Y at the end of a short word? I in cry. IGH? I in light. OA. Usually O in boat. OW. Sometimes it sounds like ow in owl, but other times it sounds like O in bowl. OO. Oo in moon, that's the usual sound. Of course, sometimes it's in book. EW. Oo in blue. All right, now PH. Phone. Sounds like an F in phone. WH. Whale. The H is silent. SH. Ship. CH. Chair. TCH at the end of a word. Same sound. Match. TH unvoiced. 3, it's just a breath of air. TH voiced. The. NK. Nk. Bunk. And NG. Ring. How'd you do, students? Okay, I'm going to do that same thing for the next probably 5 lessons. So students that already know these, teachers, you can just skip over that part. It'll be done at the beginning of the lesson, and you can just skip over that part and, move on. Our next lesson, if you think things have been fun so far, wait until lesson 85. Lesson 85 has 2 parts. We're going to do part A first and then part B. And we're going to be decoding longer words using syllables. I wonder what a syllable is. In this course, the most important thing, this is a phonetic course, so the most important thing is learning all the phonetic rules. The second most important thing is using what you've learned to decode unknown words. And in longer words, you use a skill called syllabication, but it's using syllables. And this is an extremely important skill. This enables a student to be an independent reader, and that's our goal. So we're going to be getting into that super important lesson next time. See you there.